Hey YouTubers, this is the Gold Standard Caesar 924 coming at you with Chapter 9 in my Wrestling Reimagining series for WWE 2006. For today's video, I'll be tackling the August pay-per-view, which will be SummerSlam. Now, this is going to be a joint show consisting of superstars from Raw and Smackdown. And you would think ECW in this sake, but for this booking, I did not book a single ECW match on the show. Given the scenario in which Paul Heyman is given complete control over the direction of ECW, I'm going to be continuing to focus more on the WWE side of things with Raw and SmackDown. Now, what you need to know going into SummerSlam, there are a couple title changes. Edge would win a triple threat match involving John Cena and the reigning champion RVD, and thus winning the WWE title in a triple threat on Monday Night Raw. RVD was just getting ready to get suspended, so I had to get the belt off of him and put it back on Edge. Also, another title change, Finlay, who would defeat Rey Mysterio clean in the middle of the ring on SmackDown to become the new United States champion. So that was a rematch from the Great American Bash. Now, to kick SummerSlam off, we're going to start off the show with an 8-man tag team match, whereas Brian Kendrick and Paul London, the Hooligans, who will pair up with Rey Mysterio and Bobby Lashley, and they're going to be taking on the likes of William Regal, Finlay, alongside two members of the Full-Blooded Italians. Now, how this match, this 8-man tag match, is basically a set of individual feuds that will somehow be intertwined with one another. Bobby Lashley, who ends up coming back from his sickness, would have a sort of conflict going on with the FBI, which by this point has now become a faction once again. And because of the stacked odds, Bobby Lashley gets overwhelmed by this foursome faction, and they're going to beat the hell out of Bobby Lashley, despite Lashley doing his best to fend them off, but the numbers game just keeps piling up. Brian Kendrick and Paul London end up making the save. Now, the FBI are also interested in going after the tag team titles, and that kind of plays a part in that. Mysterio and Finlay basically continuing their little rivalry that's been going on. Regal and Finlay would end up partnering or having this sort of pack or alliance with the Full-Blooded Italians. This is just going to get the key important wrestlers on the big show. I wanted to kind of spotlight some of these important wrestlers, especially on SmackDown, with Bobby Lashley and Rey Mysterio being the two most notable baby faces on SmackDown, and William Regal and Finlay, who are kind of a key important part as far as being heels. This would be an 8-man tag team match where Bobby Lashley, Rey Mysterio, and the team of Brian Kendrick and Paul London would successfully go over in the show opening match. Lashley and Mysterio are your top baby faces on the show, and I want to kind of really continue to make them look strong as I possibly can. Same goes for Brian Kendrick and Paul London as well. Really try to strengthen up the tag team division a little bit. They'll be going over the team of Finlay, Regal, and the FBI. Second match we have is for the Intercontinental Championship. Carlito going as the champion, defending the belt against Johnny Nitro. Now, Johnny Nitro had already jumped from SmackDown to Raw. Eminem had already disbanded. Nitro and Melina turned on Joey Mercury. Now, Nitro and Melina ended up getting traded over to Monday Night Raw. They ended up defeating Carlito in his non-title match, his debut match on Raw. So Johnny Nitro's off to a pretty strong start. Now, he does get involved in that triple threat match at Vengeance, but he didn't necessarily win the match, but he didn't get pinned or submitted in order for him to lose. So Nitro kind of plays that up, giving that excuse to challenge Carlito in a proper one-on-one match at SummerSlam. Carlito does eventually accept. Now, the IC title belt is a key important part in the history of WWE, especially at this time. And to have this IC title defense on SummerSlam, and given the history of some star-studded performances, so I want to kind of continue on the legacy and try to continue to put some prestige on that workhorse title. And to have Carlito going in as a fighting champion, taking on Johnny Nitro. Nitro is going to go over Carlito, especially with Melina as his valet, so you would expect some distractions with Melina, with the referee, and having their nonsensical bickering just to make sure that Carlito doesn't get an advantage over Nitro. Melina is going to do what she can to detriment Carlito in a way where he is kind of on the receiving end. And Nitro is going to manage to pull this one out, and he's going to successfully pin Carlito in the middle of the ring, will become the new Intercontinental Champion. Now, the next match we have is a special attraction, and this is going to be Hulk Hogan taking on Umaga. Now, Hulk Hogan did, in fact, wrestle at this actual SummerSlam event that year, but instead of putting him with Randy Orton, I actually put him up with Umaga. This is going to be pretty much a classic Hogan versus Big Monster storyline that Hogan had been known for, especially in his prime. Now, Umaga has been on a complete tear the past several months. He's just been destroying his opponents left and right. He even destroyed a top-tier talent like the Big Red Machine Kane. Now we get to Saturday night's main event, and Hogan was in attendance with his daughter Brooke. Basically, Umaga, during a segment, is going to get all these past legends to come out, and they're all going to stand up to Umaga in this kind of like this open challenge kind of thing. And they even have like a stare down when Umaga's at ringside and Hogan's in the crowd, just having this sort of stare down between the two competitors. Now, we will eventually play up the angle where Hulk Hogan has his sort of knee problems that he was having during this time, and whether or not Hulk Hogan has one more left in him. And 9 times out of 10, Hulk Hogan kept continuing to wrestle in subsequent matches. So could this really be his last match? I mean, we've been saying this over and over and over throughout the years, but given Hogan and his physical condition, his body's just breaking down, it's like, can he really stick to his word that this is going to be his last match? And Hogan's trying his best to deny all those rumors, but from his facial expression, it becomes very clear to the viewers at home and even with the announcers, Hogan is really nervous. Hogan's going to do his best to fight off Umaga. He's a superstar. He's a legend at this point. He revolutionized sports entertainment, WWE, professional wrestling, how have you. Hogan does his, traditional Hogan Hulk up. He's going to try and use those series of punches on Umaga, a big boot, maybe even a leg drop. And just when he goes for a cover, Armando Estrada goes up there, distracts the referee. Hogan goes up to Armando. He punches him. And then Umaga is going to find a way to nail the Samoan spike on Hogan to get the cover. 1, 2, 3. Umaga successfully goes over Hulk Hogan. The undefeated streak continues. And while Umaga and Armando celebrate as they leave the aisle, heading backstage, Hulk Hogan stands up. He looks at the crowd. And, he's just a little wobbled. Hogan manages to stand up. He looks at the crowd, signifying that this is going to be the end, that this could be his last match. And he'll give us sort of a gesture that it is as he removes his traditional bandana that he would normally wear while he makes his way in the ring during his entrance. He takes off his bandana, And he has this kind of like this tearful look on his face, and the crowd chanting, "Thank you, Hogan!" Clap, 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 clap. Thank you, Hogan! Clap, clap, clap. Hogan gets kind of like that standing ovation and basically leaves the ring while the bandana is laid in the center of the ring, giving him that kind of what looks like this will be his final match in the WWE. Next up will be the match between Matt Hardy and Shane Helms. Basically, Shane Helms ended up getting traded over from Raw to SmackDown in exchange for Johnny Nitro. Shane ends up teaming up with Matt Hardy at the Great American Bash in a tag team match against two members of the FBI. Now, the FBI would end up going over Matt Hardy and Shane Helms. We have a 4-on-2 handicap match on SmackDown. The odds are stacked. The FBI are going to pummel Matt Hardy in a 4-on-1, even though this is technically Shane Helms is part of the match, but he decides to walk out on Matt Hardy. Now, a promo takes place on SmackDown where Shane claims to be a changed man who's looking out for number one. And despite Shane being Matt Hardy's best friend, Matt's just kind of, he doesn't really understand Shane's motives. It's like he doesn't understand what makes Shane think that why would he would go out of his way to alienate his fans and supporters who have guided him through thick and thin. So with the fans, they brought Matt Hardy back from the previous year, and despite all the fiasco that happened from the previous year, and even got to the point where Matt Hardy ended up getting fired from the company, only to come back with fan support and petitions. Shane Helms also has he's kind of troubled as well. I mean, he's trying to make a name for himself. He's looking for number one. He wants to prove that he's not just some sidekick, that he's just not some nobody trying to make a name for himself. But Shane Helms, Matt Hardy, they're going to have a one-on-one match. And we tried to do our best to really try to make this match, which will hopefully be a really good match. I mean, Matt and Shane are real-life best friends, so I think they could really gel together. They did have a series of matches in reality at the real Great American Bash 06 and at No Mercy. And the match is not going to end clean. Shannon Moore is going to come out. He's going to cost Matt Hardy the match. And instead, he's going to help Shane find a way to defeat Matt Hardy. And he's going to go over under screwy circumstances, much to Matt Hardy's chagrin. So the announcers put it over. It's like Shannon Moore's back. We haven't seen him in years. And now, Shannon Moore, Shane Helms, they're reunited. And Matt Hardy is just very furious about this. The fifth match we have is a steel cage match. And this is going to be for it's not going to be for any championship belt. But this is going to be a traditional steel cage match consisting of John Cena taking on Ric Flair. A rematch from Vengeance, where Ric Flair ended up winning in his hometown of Charlotte with a roll-up pin. And John Cena, who initially had Flair beat, but Cena got too cocky, and that allowed Flair to take the advantage and get the victory in his hometown. But even despite that, John Cena ended up attacking Ric Flair from behind and leaving him bloodied and battered to the point where medical personnel ends up stretchering Ric Flair. This wouldn't be more about battling for respect, that this isn't about who the best technical wrestler is. It would be kind of more of Brett versus Owen, where it wouldn't necessarily rely too much on high spots. John Cena is going to win the steel cage match. He's going to lock in that STFU submission hold that he's been doing. Ric Flair does his best to fight it out, but after a couple of attempts, Flair has no choice but to tap out, allowing John Cena to go over Ric Flair inside the steel cage. Now we get to the sixth match, which will be for the World Tag Team titles. DX, Shawn Michaels, Triple H going in as tag team champions. They're going to be defending the belts against the recently reunited World's Greatest Tag Team with Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin. You have Shawn Michaels and Triple H. They're two veterans. They're two main event caliber wrestlers on the show. They're the tag team champions going into the show. Haas and Benjamin, they've been former tag team champions in the past, but now that they're finally back together, back on good terms, in this match, we would have Haas and Benjamin going over DX. Shawn Michaels is going to take the pinfall. Charlie Haas did an inverted atomic drop. Shelton Benjamin goes for a super kick as Charlie Haas goes for that jackknife bridge roll up to make the 3 count, in which Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin would become the new World Tag Team Champions. And that would be really cementing them huge. We also would bring up Shelton's past history with Triple H, which I nearly forgot to mention, but we could even bring that up as well, where Shelton Benjamin, when he first got drafted over to Monday Night Raw, his first match was against Triple H, and he would successfully defeat him in a series of matches on Monday Night Raw. So we could play that up, even when, Haas and Benjamin ended up breaking up the first time around. It seems like their reunion is actually paying off, and Haas and Benjamin are going to be celebrating as your new World Tag Team Champions. Now we get is our doubleheader. This will be for the World Heavyweight Championship. This was a fatal 4-way match consisting of Booker T defending the belt against The Undertaker, Randy Orton, and Dave Batista. Now Orton and Batista, they had a match at the Great American Bash. That ended in a double countout. Booker T ended up retaining the World Heavyweight title against The Undertaker at the Great American Bash as well. On SmackDown, Batista and Randy Orton, they've been kind of bickering back and forth, saying that who should be the next in line for a world title. Batista just talks about how he never lost a world heavyweight title and that he's willing to take matters in his own hands by, retrieving that title that he never lost. But he's not the only one talking there. I mean, Randy Orton also was the world heavyweight champion going to WrestleMania, and he lost that title there. And ever since he came back, he is also willing to have another chance. Neither of them are going to go after the world title unless they settle their dispute. But, I mean, their match at the Great American Bash, that just didn't have a decisive finish. But The Undertaker also has some score to settle with Booker T because he lost against him under screwy circumstances, whether it be involving Charmel, whether it be involving Regal and Finlay, or even Booker T going out his way to utilize the crutch that Charmel had and whacking it on the Undertaker and using that to wear out Undertaker to retain his world title. So there's some debacle going on as far as who would challenge Booker T for the world title set at SummerSlam. Teddy Long gives it some thought, and because of how stacked that the show is going to be, it's important that for SmackDown to put on the best card possible, the best match that you could possibly have to get your money's worth, to get viewers, to get buyers that are interested in viewing what's been going on SmackDown. And to top it off, at SummerSlam, we are going to have a fatal 4-way match for the World Heavyweight Championship because you, Booker T, will be defending the belt against The Undertaker, Randy Orton, and Batista, with more enthusiasm. And they would have the match. Booker is going to retain the world title by pitting Undertaker. Batista, he's struggling to get into the ring. And, Randy Orton's grabbing Batista's leg, preventing him from sliding in the ring to break the count. Even when there were cases where Batista looked like he's going to have the match won, Batista lays that Batista bomb on The Undertaker. But, Randy Orton ends up finding a way to prevent Batista from getting that 3 count. And they both square off. They both duke it out outside the ring. And Booker T is going to find a way to take that advantage of that opportunity, that opening, and he's going to go over in that Fatal 4-Way bout and walk out still your World Heavyweight Champion. Now we get to our main event, and this is going to be for the WWE Championship. Edge defending the belt against Mick Foley. Now this is going to be basically the match that they had from WrestleMania 22 with the same spots and whatnot. Mick Foley, he's been keeping tabs on everything that's been going on the past several months. Edge may have found a way to get his revenge by regaining the WWE title, but to witness another champion mocking ECW on television, this is Mick Foley's perspective, just feels like he's insulting every wrestler who's contributed to the company's success. Every time Edge opens his mouth, it just makes him sick to his stomach. Mick Foley says that for over 15 years, he's given out his blood, sweat, and tears for the business. Whether it be bloodied with barbed wire, falling off top of the Hell in a Cell, or enduring chair shots to the head while being handcuffed, he demonstrates what it's like when he challenges Edge to a hardcore match at SummerSlam for that WWE Championship. And I would have Edge go over Mick Foley, spearing him through the flaming table in order to retain the WWE title. So let me know what your thoughts are regarding this card down in the comment section below. Tell me what your thoughts are. Are there any matches that I've booked on the show that you'd be looking forward to? Let me know what your thoughts are, like I said, down that comment section below. Stay tuned as I will book the Raw September pay-per-view event, which will be Unforgiven. Thank you all guys for watching, and until then, this is the Gold Standard 00924 signing out.